Hey friends, my ranunculus bed is looking super tired, so it is time to flip it over and put something else in. But just wait, don't chuck those corms out. As long as they're not the type of corms that you can't save, so like the butterfly ranunculus, you can save your corms from year to year and it'll save you a lot of money. If you're new to the channel, hi, I'm Kristen. I garden in a short growing season with cold climate. I'm in zone 3 near Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. So our climate, ranunculus do not love it. But this year we had a really successful season. We had a very wet spring. It was cool. It was exactly the conditions that ranunculus liked. Plus I was able to give them a bit of a head start by putting them in this raised bed. So everything really worked in my favor. The only thing I regret is that I did not invest in the really nice ranunculus, but I had been burned for so many years and wasted so much money that this year I was like, that's it, I'm just buying the cheap ranunculus. Then if it dies, at least like I don't have to care about it. And lo and behold, the cheap ranunculus has so much red in it, which nobody wants. But you know what, such is life. And since it worked out, I've since ordered some prettier colors that work better for my brides, and lesson learned, and we'll do better next time. So if you also have a completed ranunculus bed that needs to be flipped over, let's talk a little bit about what we're looking for. So in this ranunculus bed, most of my ranunculus are starting to look yellow and dying. That's what we want. Now, some of mine is still a little bit green. Ideally, if I didn't need the raised bed space, I would actually let it get yellower and browner. But because it's getting close to July 15th, and July 15th for me is sort of the last date that I like to plant things, so I really want to get it out. So let's go into the bed and I'll just show you what to do. It's pretty easy. So I don't know if you can really see in this image, but we have a few other plants that we're working around. Over here, I have some carrots that I planted. Definitely not in the frame. There is some lettuce, and I believe some Swiss chard is starting to come up. So what I did is when my ranunculus was really close to blooming, I threw in extra seeds. And so as I was cutting, hopefully the new seeds would get more light and then they would start taking over. Let's start picking through this mess. So first one, and so we've got a nice large corm. We're just going to cut that off, and we also have some new corms. So the main corm has grown, and I also have a secondary corm, so I have a new one. So here's how to save your corms up close. So I'm just pulling the corm. I'm also weeding a little bit as we go. If the stems come off, that's okay. Just dig under there for the corm. It honestly just kind of looks like a ball of roots and dirt. And as you're splitting them apart, just remember what the corms look like when you first bought them, and that will help guide your decisions for what to split. If you're feeling unsure, don't feel like you have to split every single corm possible. You can leave them in clumps, that's fine. Sometimes once you pretty them up a little bit and wash them, it's a little more obvious. Also, it's amazing how many corms you will get. From this one in the video, I think I got about 5 extra. So I actually counted my corms when I was all done. I had purchased 100 of this type, and then I lost a few along the way, but I actually ended up with 260 corms. So I think that's incredible. Now, of course, these corms are all different sizes. Some are larger, some are itty bitty, and I'm assuming that not every single corm will make it, and that's okay because I have lots of extras. So now that I've had a bit of a chance to weed, I think it's a little bit easier kind of to see what my plan was and what is actually going on in this bed. Sorry for that before. Sometimes it's just one step forward and, do the most urgent thing. So anyway, you can see all of the carrot rows a bit more clearly here. And then where I haven't taken away the ranunculus yet, you can see kind of how they're interspersed like that. And then over here, we have some onions, and I just planted these for green onions. My volunteer lettuce, of course, and then you can also see this little row of Swiss chard that's kind of intentional. I also have some nasturtiums over here, and my idea was just I wanted them to fall over the beds. I like that look. So I finally finished taking everything out, and this is what the bed looks like. Now, I have a couple of seeds that have short growing days. So I'm going to plant all of these and yeah, fill up this bed again. I'm sure it seems really crazy to plant things late, especially if you also grow in a short growing season, but all of these things are things that can handle a little bit of frost, and I've been experimenting with this for a little while now, especially with the frost-proof flower garden. And I know that these should be okay unless we get like a -10 early or something, you know, then of course nothing is going to live in that situation. Anyway, so now that I've got everything planted, I'm just giving the bed a really good watering, and then it'll be time to put up the protection from the chickens and the cats. And then here's the final step of preparing a new bed here, which is securing everything from the cats and the chickens. So this is a really cheap setup. All of the spikes are just bamboo. You can get at any dollar store hardware. And then what's all the way around is just some hardware cloth. It's pretty lightweight, you know, maybe a little awkward to set up, but like very, very doable. And it's just enough to keep them out. Here are all the Ranunculus corms that I harvested. So now the next step, and this one is a little bit optional, how far you want to go with it, is we're going to get these cleaned up so that they kind of look like they do when they come to us when we first buy them. So this is my collection of corms, and all I do is I take one out, I cut off the stems, I cut off these little bits, and oh look, I actually missed dividing this one. There's actually two here, which is fine. Just cut these off, and then if I want to put them in water, just sort of work them around a little bit, get all, you probably won't get every bit of dirt off, but you know, just get off a good portion of it. And that's it. You just let them out to dry. These are a few that I washed off so you could kind of see what they look like. And then over here, I did a bunch where I did not wash them off, just again, so you could see kind of what those look like. So none of these are really completely dry. I'm gonna let them sit out in the sun. That should make them dry a bit faster. And generally, I would say you should probably let them dry for a week. Do they need to sit out in the sun for a week? Probably not, especially during the heat of summer. Just be checking on them, and whenever they look like they did when you first bought them, that's probably good enough. So if you'd like to do this with your anemones, the process is exactly the same, except I find it seems to be quite rare for your anemone to have a double corm. I think I only had one or two that had grown a new one. Everything else was pretty much just the same corm that I remember before. But again, doing exactly the same process. I also pulled mine a little sooner because I found my anemones were a little bit more heat tolerant, and I probably could have still left them out for a few more days, but I just, again, really wanted to flip the beds and get that space back. So pulled them out, clean them off exactly like you see here. If you have any questions about this process or anything else, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. I don't know why, but I feel like the information about saving corms has really been gate kept, and so yeah, I'm here to show you what to do and save you money. Definitive answer. I just use them once per season. I don't try to double dip and do them in the fall, and quite frankly, my season just isn't long enough to even try to do that, so I recommend only using them once a year. But if you know the answer to that question, please pop it in the comments. I know lots of people would love to know. That's everything for this episode. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.